Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. Tell everybody to come join the party. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, if you're following us on social media, make sure you're following us on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. And breaking news, Amie, I finally joined Bluesky.
I just followed you.
And let me tell you, there is such a big difference. Like, now the thing that sucks, and I hope it improves. You tell me, because you've been on Bluesky longer than I have. I feel like a lot of the beat writers aren't on Bluesky, so I don't get a lot of Dodger news on Bluesky. I still have to use Twitter, and then the thing is I go on Twitter, and then it just pisses me off. But it is super noticeable, Amie, when I am on Bluesky, even if when I'm on Threads, I see stuff on those that I don't see on Twitter. And it totally makes me think, these seem to be important stories. Why are these not showing up on my Twitter thread, but they're showing up on Bluesky and Threads? But I came out of the dark ages, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm on Bluesky now. And I pissed off Amie because, of course, I have a completely different what do we go? What do you call it?
It's a handle. So
I have a
let's
completely different handle than what I have on everything else.
pull back the curtain for a moment. When we finish the show and post it across various streaming platforms, YouTube, etc., my handle tends to be pretty consistent across the board. So it's really easy to just copy and paste each of the social media things as we're posting, waiting for stuff to render. Every single social media thing that we use, I have to remember, okay, what is Juan's handle on this platform? And I heard that he had joined Bluesky and I was so excited. And then I saw his handle was different than the other ones. And I was like, great, it's just another one I'm going to have to remember when I post all this stuff. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay,
I didn't start twitching.
In my defense, when I started my Twitter handle, I used Blue Revolt because I was going to use it strictly for my filmmaking purposes. All right. And then this whole thing of covering the Dodgers fell into my lap, and I already had an existing Twitter. I didn't want to just create a whole new Twitter
or change your handle. You know, you can change
well,
your handle.
I tried changing my handle, and it still shows as Blue Revolt Film. So I must be doing it wrong or something like that. This is where Grandpa's show asks you, "Hey, can you show me how to use this remote control?" So then the thing is so when I on Instagram, I was able very easily to change my handle. So then I changed it to the Rasquatch Sports Journalist because that's what I had, fully accepted. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the sports journalism thing. So then when I joined Bluesky, I was going to use Rasquatch Sports Journalist, but I guess it's too long. So that's why
you had to have the long name.
Exactly. I get paid by the letter. So
okay, Jane Austen. Jeez.
So that's why I ended up doing Rasquatch SJ, because I was thinking of you when I was doing this because I heard your voice in my head going, really, really? And then sure enough, when I told you, hey, I joined Bluesky, me regañas. That's the first thing you go, oh, really?
No.
Thank you for making it easy for me.
Actually, everyone, I believe my response was, yay! And then I realized it was different. And then I decided.
And then you cursed me out.
And then I said, F it, because you know what? The battle was getting you on Bluesky because I couldn't at you on those things. So we'll take what we can get, people.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to basically say thank you. You were right all along. my apologies, 1,000 pardons for taking so long to join Blue Sky. And again, reminder, I should listen to you more often because you're always right. You've
Whoa,
never
not
steered me
always.
wrong. Everything you tell me to do always ends up being better for me. So thank you, Mama Cuevas. You've always taken care of me, and I just need to pay more attention to you.
Just listen the first time. Just listen the first time.
So before we start talking to some Dodger baseball,
Go follow Juan on Blue Sky.
yes, it's Rasquache SJ, ladies and gentlemen, for anybody that is on Blue Sky. Or if it's just easier, follow Baseball Shangri-La on Blue Sky. And then,
I updated that as well with your handle.
exactly,
Gotcha.
you can get it that way. Um, any comments from the comments corner that you want to address before we start talking some Dodger baseball?
Well, I am coming straight from work, so I haven't looked. Is there anything that you wanted to grab from that?
There's a few comments that I found they were there's some points that I want to acknowledge, and it's from a loyal listener, a viewer, excuse me, El Cerebro. So I want to make sure that he gets credit for this stuff, and that is the interesting conversation about forfeiting games that we had at the end of our last episode. And he brings up a point that I really didn't take into account. So this is what El Cerebro said. I disagree with forfeiting games. No one suffers more in a blowout games than the home fans. As was mentioned before, a Dodger ticket costs upwards of $100, and then you have the social experience to be cut short makes it even worse. And you know what? That is a very good point that I did not think of, El Cerebro. And that is, what do you do with the fan experience, right? Now, I will say that, I mean, I know it's a little different, but what about the fan that leaves the game early, Amie? They've chosen to basically like they're gonna forego. I know there's a lot of fans who like they come really far, and if it's during the week, they got a long drive home. They don't want to get home too late, so they end up leaving at the seventh inning. And now I know they're willingly doing that. They're leaving early. But if a game is forfeited, what do you think about El Cerebro's point there? That it's the fan who suffers because it's like, hey, I paid to see a full game, and because you guys crap the bed and can't play, I'm not getting a full game anymore.
That's I think where that's kind of what I was touching on last week is like they'll never go for that because of the loss of money. I don't know that you can necessarily factor in like the people who leave early because everybody has their reason for doing that, but like you said, that's personal preference. Like when I used to fly down here and I had to pay a lot of money to come to games, I would never leave early. Now that I'm a season ticket holder and I have to be at work at 7 a.m., for me, I don't want to say I don't have a choice. We always have a choice, but for me, it is safer to leave early so that I don't fall asleep on the way home. So I leave early because I need to. You don't know if somebody's leaving just because they're done with it. They have family obligations. Like, I don't think that weighs against the people who paid to be there. They shouldn't have to suffer. Now, I think when you pay for that ticket, though, it's like any ticket. You go to a concert, you go to, whatever, you're going to have the little terms of service at the bottom. And that's the risk. The forfeiting, I think, goes against that. So I think that's out the window. But if you go and they don't play the best game ever, that's where I think you kind of make the best of it. Like we had Miggy Rowe doing those impersonations when he did it in the 10 pitch inning. That was funny. That was fine. It kind of changed the mood in the crowd and it lightened everything up. Now, when you're doing it in the ninth inning for the second inning in a row and you're elongating that to like 23 pitches, that's where people start to like, okay, this is a little excessive. This is going to start hitting the stats. So I don't think there is a good way to be able to handle it other than we just have to all tough it out and then you decide if you want to stay or not. But Major League Baseball is never going to give up that money. They're not going to refund almost sellout stadium, even if it is midweek, in my opinion.
No, it's true. But El Cerebro, meet me halfway here, okay? Because I still think forfeiture should be on the table. But what if we get created with a forfeiture? What
because
if
you have rainouts, and I don't know if they always reimburse on games like that. If it's past a certain inning, it's like, well, you got enough of the game.
This is what happens if it's an official game. it's an official game, right? That's it. But if they do continue the game on a different day, you can still use your ticket for that game to go see the end of that game, right? But let's say they play 5 innings and they get rained out and it is considered an official game. That's it. The game is over on the 5th and it's just bad luck. It's force majeure, ladies and gentlemen, an act of God. You just came on the wrong day. But El Cerebro, let me know what you think of this. Because I just don't think it's not appealing at all for me to watch 16-0 to see position players. But for example, in my daughter's softball league, there is a mercy rule. And the mercy rule is it's 15 run lead after 4, a 10-run lead after 5, and that's it. The game's over. So after they stop serving after the 7th inning at Dodger Stadium, I think the majority of stadiums, there may be some that serve later than the 7th, but I think the majority of the stadiums stop serving after the 7th. Would you be okay with a mercy rule 10 runs after 7 innings?
You're asking El
I'm asking you.
Cerebro.
I'm putting el cerebro,
I
but
was
I'm
like,
also posing it
he's,
to you.
I'm like, he's not going to be able to answer
I'm
this till
posing
next week.
Actually, this is open to everybody. Like, what would you guys think? What would you guys think of a mercy rule of 10 runs after 7 innings?
I mean, we've already dealt with so many changes to the game. I think this is something where, like, yeah, you want to get the, and this is where it gets confusing because, like, okay, open it up to fans to vote on this, fan wide, but then you get the casuals who don't care. Then you have the diehards who are upset at the casuals because we don't want to leave early. Like, there's no easy answer for any of this. It's almost like you said, like a rain out after like 5 innings, act of God, and it's like, all right, that is the game. It's almost like we all just have to get used to this is the way it is, unless somebody comes up with a solution that hopefully everybody, players, MLB, owners, fans can all get on board with, so that you don't have another rule change where everybody's like, well, great, glad, a portion of the population is happy with this. We all think it sucks.
And let's also just look at the math. It's not
How
like
often is it happening?
exactly how often does it happen. That's why I'm saying, okay, if you do 7 innings, you can't get any refreshments, you can't get anything after 7 innings inside the stadium. If the game ends after 7 innings, usually, what do you do after a game ends anyway? If you're going to go buy merch, you could still do that after 7 innings. And in the most part, in these type of games, when they do get out of hand, when is it that they usually put a position player to pitch? It's usually in those last 2 innings. It's either the 8th or the 9th inning. If they're on the road, it's usually the 8th inning that they'll put him in there. But so you save yourself those last 2 innings. You save yourself putting a position player out there to pitch. Now, I
Well,
know
and we're the perfect examples. You don't want to watch it because it's not good baseball. I'm over here biting my fingers. Please don't let that player get injured because we need them on the actual field. So everybody has their different reasons why they don't really like this, other than obviously the winning team, and the winning team's going to win no matter what. So I mean, I think it's a plausible concession.
And I know that there'll be a lot of people right now that their ears are bleeding from hearing me say this, because that's Bush League, Juan. That's Little League stuff. These are the pros. They just need
You're
to go ahead.
paying to be there. And
They need-
you are paying to be there, but are you paying for good baseball at that point?
and usually they just need to be better. They just need to be, and it's like, look, it happens. Okay. Like I said, it's not like every week we're seeing one of these games. It's every once in a while. So that's why I'm saying, like, when it happens, if it's a 10-run lead after 7 innings, let's like, it just wasn't your day. Yes.
Question. What if that's the one game a year you get to go to, though? Like, I'm spoiled. I get to go to a lot because I'm a season ticket holder. You go because we live close enough that we can go frequently. What if that's your only game and you did take your family to it?
You still get 7 innings worth, right? You still
In the shortened atmosphere that we're in, though, right now, where like a lot of games are only like 2.5 hours, and now we're shortening it by 2 innings. Are you going to have some people who are upset because I guess you could turn the "it doesn't happen very often" argument around. It doesn't happen very often, so, like, get over it.
But let me ask you this, Amy. if it's one of those games and your team is losing 16-0, are you having fun? Do you want it to keep going or do you want it to end?
No, and me personally, no, I don't want it to keep going because I can handle the score all day long. I'm more concerned the minute they bring a position player out because to me that being prone for injury, it heightens in that situation. But I don't want to be just, oh, well, this is what I think about, and mine is the only important reason. There are families, there are fans, there are people who go to games, and if this is the one game you drove out to go to and we're shortening it, I also don't want to take that away from them. If bad game or not, maybe they're just happy to be in the stadium. Who am I just because I can leave. You can turn off the TV. They don't, I mean, they can figure out what they want to do. Bring up your one guy who you're not worried about getting hurt and have them pitch, like, so there are alternatives. I just don't want to take that choice away from somebody else who, might be on the opposite side of the spectrum.
And the other argument is, Juan, this happens so infrequently. We don't need a rule for this. Just let it go. You can deal with one day Miguel Rojas going out there and getting lit up with a 22 ERA. It's okay. Like I said,
It is definitely food for thought, though, and I love the creative ideas because we've all thought about it. Like, I have my position, sounds like El Cerebro, they have theirs, you have yours. Like, I think this is what makes the game go round, though, is us discussing things like this, and that might be the seed for change down the line. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to acknowledge Cerebro's point there. I did not take into account what how the fan would react to having a game cut short. So any other comments that you want to go ahead and address, Amie?
I mean, El Cerebro was very active in our comments this week. Thank you so much for listening to our episodes. And just confirming that it was cold there, which is something that for me, like, that's what I think about. Like, I could not be one of these baseball players. I am not built that way. But also brought up the topic of fan interference with Muncy in the Tokyo series. And he mentioned she, I'm going to assume it's he, but I'll be open-minded. It took Muncy's frustration that he was frustrated with himself and not the fan, because the replay shows Muncy's glove got a little tangled on the net, and they believe that's why he missed it. So, they could be wrong, but that's how they read the situation. And again, this is why I love baseball, because we all have differing views. Us talking about this might help shift somebody's perspective. It might change my perspective. It might change yours. Like, this is why I love talking baseball, not only with you every week, but getting to interact with our listeners.
Well, that play in particular with Muncy was very different because Muncy did go into the stands and Rodney Pete just stood his ground. He literally just stood and stuck his glove up. He didn't do what the Yankee fan did.
Right.
He didn't do what the Astros fan did, which was stick his hand into the player's glove. Now, as my compadre reached out and said, well, technically, if a player goes into a field of play, it's a free-for-all, right? At that point, anything can happen. I just think if you do what Rodney Pete does, I think it's perfectly fine. You go and you try to catch the ball.
Well, and to be fair, in Rodney Pete's case, like, if you watched any of the interviews, they handed out those gloves and helmets to that section because they were so prone to getting hit by foul balls. So he was, in essence, protecting his wife, Holly, from getting hit by that ball. But to your point, he wasn't reaching into Muncy's glove and taking it out if that had interfered. And to me, I understand the rule, especially in light of the new explanations. But at the same token, like, if you're a fan, to me, respect the game. You don't need to reach into somebody's glove. If you're going to catch it, fine. I don't understand that. I wouldn't do it. I would back away. But do not reach into somebody's glove and take it. Don't grab Mookie Betts' hand. Don't reach into Trout's glove. Like, what are we doing? You're here to enjoy this beautiful game, and now you're interfering with it. Even if you have, I guess, every right to do it by the rules, why would you?
That to me was the bridge too far. Is when you're sticking your hand or you're touching the player's glove.
Did you have that player's consent?
That to me, and like I said, for me, it seemed like the play in Houston was interference, but like my compadre said, Trout went into the stands. So, and this is why, again, I took issue with the fact that it wasn't like Mookie, because Mookie was still in foul territory on the field and the fans reached over to him. So that's why I was having a conniption when everybody's like, oh, this was just like Mookie. No, it wasn't like Mookie.
But I think sometimes the communication can get confused too, where it's like Mookie in that somebody reached into that glove. So it is a similar situation, but they're not saying it is exactly the same specific issue where one hand grabbed the glove, one hand grabbed his hand. But it is similar in that somebody did reach into the glove and take the ball, which we have not seen too much of that until more recently.
Absolutely. Any other comments you want to address?
I'm good.
All right. Well, a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amie, so the Dodgers had a rough road trip last time, going to Philadelphia and Washington. They came home, and it was a rough series against the Cachorros. They lost 2 out of 3. What is the best remedy for when you're struggling? Colorado Rockies, come on down, ladies and gentlemen. The Dodgers end up sweeping the Rockies in Los Angeles. Not only that, they end up winning 2 out of 3 against the Rangers of Texas, which it saw some great pitching that whole series. That was a fantastic series. The Dodgers.
You would have loved that series.
I did love
already
that.
knew.
I
already
did
knew.
love that series, and unfortunately, it was a walk-off that prevented them from sweeping Texas, and that would have been really good. So, looking back at this, Amie, what were standouts to you in this last stretch of games with the Doyers? And if you want to talk about that crazy game, that first game in Chicago against the Cachorros, feel free. Go. I threw you off again. All right, we were going to start off with updates. Damn it. It's not like I have the rundown right in front of me.
It's just so funny because that's how I had it listed, and you're like, no, let's do updates first. All right, bro, let's do this is your world.
All right, I set it up. That's a tease, ladies and gentlemen. That's a tease. Let's start with updates, Amie. Let us know what's going. What do we need to know? What do inquiring minds need to know about the Doyers right now?
So all the chisme and things that were happening since the Colorado series, like I didn't hear too much during Colorado, but Clayton Kershaw did have his rehab start last week in Oklahoma City on Wednesday. For anybody who didn't see that, he pitched 3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks. He had 2 strikeouts, 30 pitches, 22 for strikes. So pretty good as far as he was concerned. And then as we started to kind of switch gears into the Rangers series, Trinan was warming up on Friday, felt a flare up in his forearm. That transferred over into Sunday or Saturday. He was not available. And then Sunday we found out he had a low grade sprain in his right forearm, and they have no timeline as of right now on his return. So, perfect timing because we just got Evan Phillips back and we sped that up a day or two to get him out there. And he actually went back to back in a couple games. So.
And actually also Clayton Kershaw had another rehab start in Tulsa. I believe it was it Monday or Tuesday that he had, and it was again more of the same. He did give up a run. Now keep in mind Tulsa is AA, but it doesn't seem like they're in any rush to get Kershaw up there. So I think Kershaw is definitely going to go ahead and take his time building up his stamina, and when he's ready, he'll be up here. Amie, I gotta say this: the Trinan injury did not surprise me, just because of what happened at the end of the year last year in the World Series when he pitched those 2 and it was a 2 1/3 that he pitched, and he would look like he was on fumes. I just had the vibe that took a lot out of him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he started off the next season injured, just because of the short off season they had. And it just seemed like that guy pitched his heart out there during the World Series, which is what you want. That's all you can ask from a player. But you also have to deal with the fact that he's going to pay the price for that at some point or another. So when Trinan got hurt, I was like, I can't say that I can't say that I was surprised. I knew it was going to happen at some point or another. He is older. Do you have any other updates? Because I have a couple of updates as of today.
Yes, so we'll get into Shohei a little bit later, but because he was placed on the paternity list, we did see Eddie Rosario, which is something I want to talk to you about a little bit more later. So we saw him in a couple games, and then he was DFA'd after on Sunday when they reinstated Shohei to play. And then, as I'm sure we've all seen now on Sunday, Tyler Glasnow, he had an issue in the bottom of the fourth. So it looked like he was trying to like shake out one of his wrists or his arms. You couldn't quite tell if it was his leg. He was up against Dustin Harris, and then he left the game in the bottom of the fifth after just throwing his first pitch to Jake Berger. He was kind of stamping his feet, and it turns out that he was having cramping in both of his calves, sorry. And he had that similar issue in Toronto last year. It was the end of April, so about the same time of year. But the issue was causing him to struggle to push off the mound, and he's fine now. He's been drinking a lot of fluids, but they still don't know really what causes this. I think Dave Roberts was even saying something like the pickle juice to, water ratio, the electrolytes. They're trying to figure it out, but it doesn't seem like it'll be long term.
It surprises me because the guy pitched in Tampa. You would think that he would know how to deal with humidity. But the fact that it happened in that weekend that it happened in Toronto, it was a very unusually humid weekend for Toronto. So I do find it interesting that this happens to him, where he comes from an environment that has humidity. So you would think that he would know how to prevent this kind of thing.
Well, and maybe it's different kinds of humidity. I don't know, because isn't it more like
it's a dry heat in Texas?
Yeah, a little. I mean, it's a little bit. You're still going to have the humidity, but it's not going to be like swamp humidity.
I mean, when I found that it was in both legs, I was like, damn, man, I can't imagine a
He
cramp
was
in
like
both legs.
people's
Like,
calves, feet, and it just gets to where like he couldn't move anything, and I'm like, oh god, that just
well, I
sounds
mean, I
awful.
could see him on the back of the mound. He was trying to stretch it out, but I thought it was just in one leg. So
Think
when
of the worst Charlie horse you've ever had.
exactly, in the middle of the night where I'm just like, all of a sudden I become a ballerina, and I'm just like,
And then you look up and there's like 30,000, 40,000 fans watching you have this happen. Oh, and by the way, make sure you pitch well down the mound.
And he was pitching really well. He was pitching really well, but thankfully, hopefully, it is just a cramp issue, and maybe he'll miss a start, but he'll be back shortly. What else do you got for us, Amie?
I know you have some updates because I was busy working.
So you have everything? Those are all yours?
Those are the big ones I had.
Okay, these are so at the time we are recording this, it
Oh,
is
Bobby Miller did get sent down, but on Thursday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can go ahead and talk.
We'll get into that in the games, but they did make some moves as they were moving around, like Rosario and things like that.
We are going to talk about Bobby Miller later on.
We will
in this episode.
That's when we actually get to the series recap.
Yeah. So at the time we are recording this, it is Wednesday. The Doyers are in the final game of this 2-game set.
Don't tell me.
Against the Cachorros in Chicago. So this is news as of Wednesday afternoon, and that is shocking, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of you are probably surprised about this, but it appears that Blake Snell has hit a snag in his rehab, or what did they love to call it, Amie? What was it? What did they call it? Dang. I feel like they use this term all the time.
A setback?
There you go. The famous setback that happens all the time. So
you know that can happen. It's not a conspiracy theory, right? Like people do experience setbacks.
Oh, I know, but that's
okay. Just making sure.
No, but it just always cracks me up that everybody thinks, oh, it's just going to be a few. And I am fully expecting even right now, he's going to be out for a few months. So for all you optimistic Dodger fans who are like, oh, he's just going to miss a few starts. No, that ain't happening, man. He's going to be gone for a few months. And the thing, so he was just throwing. He hadn't even thrown off the mound. He was supposed to throw off the mound today. And then he told Roberts he doesn't feel that great. So that's the setback right there. So now it's going to push everything back because he still hasn't thrown off the mound. So he's nowhere near close to coming back.
I don't know what world you live in where medically people are just able to diagnose and know right on the spot, because I know my doctors aren't that good, and I don't even have the Dodgers doctors. So like things will change. So it's not even that we have optimistic people necessarily. It's just it's an ever-changing situation.
I'm fully prepared that things change. My thing, what's realistic, is that he's going to be out for a while. So these people who act like, oh, he's just going to miss a few starts. No, why are you lying to yourself?
Why are you worried about what they think?
I can't
You're
stand.
very upset about this.
Yes, because I can't stand people that live in a delusional world and lack self-awareness.
But
It
maybe
drives me
in
insane.
their defense, maybe they're maybe they're not casuals. Maybe they are. Maybe they don't read into all the news, and the little bits that they catch, they're like, oh yeah, they said it'll be a couple starts. On with their day. I
You
don't.
know what? If we get further on in the episode, I'm going to let you know, because there were a few of our listeners that reached out to me with situations that we're going to tie it into the series recaps. But they asked me these questions, and I'm just like, come on, man. Be honest with yourself, okay? Let's have some intellectual honesty here. I'll refer to it later on when we get to those examples.
Okay. All right.
So also, Will Smith was not in the lineup today for the finale against the Cachorros.
Dang it, I didn't move him out of my lineup.
Oh wow, your fantasy team is, what place are you in your fantasy league?
I actually moved up. I went from 8th to 7th, but
All right, there we go. We're making progress.
Blake Snell is on the IL, so he's not doing me any good there.
Are you liking fantasy baseball?
I mean, I'm not as devoted to it as I should be. We had a little fantasy baseball meeting on Monday, and we're all kind of in the same boat. We're just doing our best.
I want you to know you're insane for doing fantasy baseball.
I want you to know that I'm not perfect. There's days like this morning, I was so excited. I set my lineup, and then I was working all day and didn't get to look at my phone. And I would have known about Will Smith, and I would have swapped him out. There's some days I forget to move them, and I'm like, oh, well, let it ride.
The commitment to fantasy baseball is just too much. It is just too much for me. And
that's why you do a free league, and you just like, we'll see what happens.
Even in a free league, I just be like, this is too much, man. I can't.
Most of my, so we took a consensus, because I'm doing it with some of my Saber gals, and we all have our respective teams. So we were doing kind of a role of like, okay, how many of your actual team players are on your roster? And a lot of us had a good chunk. I think I had the most Dodgers, but we're not like seriously playing.
You're like my dear friend. The first year he did fantasy football, his favorite football team is the Rams, and he drafted all Rams players. And the draft was over, and we looked at him and we said, hey, dude, what are you going to do when the Rams have a bye? And he looked at him and goes,
oh, what? Mondays and Thursdays are brutal.
He's like, what?
David wants a taco? That's just an ambulance. It's fine. It's not for, it's a fire truck.
Wow, that one was really loud. That one came in really loud.
Yeah. It's not behind you. Keep driving. You're safe.
Okay.
I enjoy it for the camaraderie, which is why I joined, and to also kind of learn about it in a no pressure situation. So for what I'm doing, I am enjoying it when I remember to set my lineup. So yeah, it's fun.
So Will Smith is not in the lineup because if you saw game 1 of that Cachorro series, the play at the plate, it looks like he might have, I don't want to say hurt his wrist, but his wrist was a little sore after putting the tag. So being that Thursday is an off day for them, they wanted to give him an extra day to recover. So it doesn't look like it's anything lingering, but that's pretty much the extent of.
But don't worry, Juan thinks he'll be out for the season, so it's at least we have Austin Barnes.
No, I don't think that. I mean, they might call Hunter Fiducia up to sit on the bench.
Do we have another wager coming our way?
We might have to bring up that wager again. We might have to be on Hunter Fiducia bench watch. We
need shirts.
It might be. I mean, that is probably the greatest love affair that there is in Major League Baseball. Hunter Fiducia and the bench. Yes.
I have all those leftover mustaches from my Mariachi Joe costume, we're totally. I'm gonna send some to you so you could put one over your mustache and be even more ironic, and we can wear them when we're doing our fiducia binge
Be
watch.
part of the Hunter Fiducia bench
Mhm.
warming fan club.
Mhm.
So, okay, Amy. After I gave you that tease, let's talk about the week that was.
Okay.
Would you have something else?
No, I'm just
Mm.
I'm a little cringy. Like, should I? Do I need to settle in?
Well, what would you think about this? Since we're big movie fans on here, what would you think if we did a segment to help with our recaps that we call "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly" as an homage to the great Sergio Leone movie starring Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach? You give me your good from that series against the Rockies, the series against the Rangers, or if you want to even go into that first game against the Cachorros.
You're funny. Like with we need a bit. I'm like
We do.
I just have all my stats.
All right, give me your
Um,
stats then.
I mean, we have Dustin May with like two very different starts, right? You have him against Colorado. He went 6 innings, 3 hits, only 1 earned run, right? 7 strikeouts, and then against the Cubs, it was a different story. He struggled on. I'm trying to think which night we're on. Tuesday
That
night.
that's actually my ugly was
Yeah.
Dustin May starting.
But you know what though? He wore it and he had those 2 bad innings, but he also trucked along in the other ones. It wasn't pretty, but that also goes to that thing that we talk about a lot. We don't know what kind of day he's having, and he might have known he didn't have it beforehand, but what are they going to do? They're not going to swap out another pitcher. So he's just got to go out there and do the best that he can. And so whatever shape he was in, admirable. But we also saw Landon Knack in Colorado, or against Colorado, and then Bobby Miller went 3 innings, and he had a little bit of a rough time too.
All
So
right. So you just mentioned two people that are in my ugly category. I want to go back to the Dustin May because Dustin May, I think on Tuesday had the Kirby Yates moment. That game where the Dodgers got walked off on Saturday against Texas, you could see that Kirby Yates did not have it. Clearly from the beginning of that inning. I mean, Smith almost took him out for a home run in that inning that would have tied the game. So it was just a matter of time. And sometimes you just don't have it. It's exactly what you just said, Amy. I'm sure when Kirby Yates was warming up in the bullpen, he knew I don't have it that day. And the thing is, and this is a
what are
guy
you
that
gonna do?
what are you going to do? This is a guy I also want to talk about later on. But the reason why they went to Kirby Yates in that game is because Tanner Scott, it was going to be like the third time in 4 games that they were going to use him. And so the Dodgers were
He
very,
wanted to be the closer. Welcome to. I'm just kidding.
I mean, the Dodgers were very aware of usage. So it's like, we are going to stay away from Tanner Scott. Kirby Yates came in and he didn't have it. And I think you could tell from Dustin May on Tuesday against the Cachorros that he didn't have it because, I mean, usually Dustin May looks like he's throwing a Frisbee out there. There is so much movement on his pitches. He had no movement on
It
his
was
pitches on Tuesday.
all over the
It was
place.
like right over the plate. It was right over the plate. And
Oh, sometimes way off the plate, sometimes way above the plate. Like he was having a hard time. Poor guy.
he caught too much of the plate for me, and I just think he just did not have the command. He clearly and that's crazy because yes, you face the Rockies, but after that start against the Rockies, his ERA was a little over 1. It was 1.06.
You are
And,
correct, sir.
and what's so crazy is that bad start against the Cachorros has just gotten his ERA up to 3.68, which is still very respectable, ladies and
He
gentlemen.
had one bad game.
He
So
had
far.
one bad game, and look where it took him. But
This
that
is
was
also what you say a lot of the time, and this is the danger of pitchers not going deeper into games. And as we're seeing, I mean, I guess we could have just kept leaving him in, but when you bring in more from the bullpen, the more pitchers you have, they might have an off day, and so
and,
you're running that risk with every pitcher you use.
and that's exactly what happened there, Amy. I want to give you credit because you're right. I think it was the way that game started in that bottom of the first, giving up 5 runs for him to give him as many innings as he did give them on Tuesday. I do think it was huge because they're going with a bullpen game for game 2 against the Cachorros. So if he didn't give them any length, they would have been in real trouble. You probably would have seen a position player pitch.
Mhm.
But again, Amie, they had a 3-run lead and you had your elite bullpen arms. You would have thought that would have been enough to win that game. And unfortunately, look, this goes into my bad category. And this is how crazy, because all right, this is where I'm going to bring in our listeners who are sending me messages. We are not even out of April yet, ladies and gentlemen, and I already got the message about Tanner Scott, and that Tanner Scott is just not cutting it. And if you go back and you look at Tanner Scott's numbers in April, historically, he's not very good in April. But this is what's so crazy, Amie. Okay, he gave up the home run against the Cachorros to tie the game in the bottom of the ninth. His ERA is 2.77. Like, what are the expectations of Tanner Scott? Does Tanner Scott need to have like a 0 ERA? Is Tanner Scott just need to be perfect every time he goes out there?
You know my answer to this. Like, I don't fan that way. Like, if people, and the people who are hitting you up, if that's how they want to watch baseball, like, vaya con Dios, however you want to do it. That's not how I watch baseball. Like, pitching is hard, hitting is hard, fielding is hard. We saw some mistakes in that Cubs game last night, and I think we're putting the cart before the horse, jumping to the last game first. But these guys, like, he gave up 1 run. Unfortunately, although it was offensively a high hit game, we just didn't have the insurance runs to cover that. So, it was too close of a game for that to happen.
I know this Pink Brush. I appreciate you listening to the show. I do. I want to listen to what you're saying. I get it. I really, it doesn't, he has not looked good. I will say that. And I think maybe the expectation was we were expecting to see a dominant Tanner Scott that was just going to come in here 1, 2, 3 every inning and just mow everybody down. But again, Pink Brush, go back and look at his numbers historically in the month of April. And there's a lot of players like this that get off to slow starts. So that's why when I've been getting all these messages about players that you guys are concerned about, I'm not even going to go there until the end of May. So the first week of June, you will start hearing from me about players that I'm like, okay, we need to talk about so-and-so. So, like, for me, for the Tanner Scott thing, yes, he gave up the home run, but let's look at what Vesia did. Vesia has been a very reliable reliever for him. He gave up a big 2-run home run to Tucker. Kyle Tucker almost took him out of the stadium if it wasn't for that scoreboard. That was a 2-run home run. If Vesia finds a way, lefty on lefty, to get Kyle Tucker out, Tanner Scott's home run that he gives up in the ninth is a non-issue. The Dodgers win that game.
This is that what if game, though, that I just don't play, because you can what if all you want. Like, I think it was Vesia who came in after one of the pitchers. Was it Glasnow? Regardless, the bases were loaded. I think it was DC or Philly or something like that. And then first pitch gave up a grand slam. Like, that doesn't make him a bad pitcher. He had a bad pitch. But that's literally what this game is about. It almost feels like sometimes, and again, no shade if this is how you want to watch the game, but like, they're not going to be perfect every game, and they're not going to win every game. There's 162 games. I think, was I listening to, or maybe it was you, like, they're going to lose at least 60 of them. Like,
yeah,
at least
60 of them. And
we lose less often typically than other teams. So, like, maybe it's people just aren't used to losing, don't like losing. I don't know.
I mean, look, I'll tell you this. I looked at that game on Tuesday against the Cachorros, and after the start that Dustin May had, I didn't think they had any chance of winning that game. That the fact that they came back, it says a lot about the Cachorros bullpen, actually. I mean, their middle relief was really struggling in that game. For them to actually climb back into that game and actually take the lead was surprising. But I had already chalked that up as a loss.
But it's it's not just on Dustin May though. Like mistakes, like we said last week, like mistakes will happen throughout the season. Sometimes they happen all in one game. Sometimes it's a little more sparse or like kind of sprinkled in. But like Pies booted that ball. Theo didn't catch that. He thought he had a glove on it and he didn't. Edmund was going to the wall and then the ball kind of just missed him. Like those are opportunities where we could have maybe gotten some of those runners that came around to score out, but it didn't happen. And I guess that's where like you could what if all day long, like what if Edmund had caught the ball? What if Theo got it, an inning or two later? What if Pies didn't boot that ball? Well, yeah, it's a different game, but that's not the game we were playing. Like baseball is about this because this is the whole point we've been making all season long, and so have other fans. You can't buy a championship. You can have good players, but players are still human. And so I think if nothing else, this just proves that point even more.
And that's why I go back to what Dave Roberts said. When Dave Roberts made comments earlier in the season saying we had no business winning that game, I look at that Tuesday game as the Dodgers had no business winning that game. And it turns out they didn't win that game. They didn't pitch well, and in clutch situations they did not execute. So one of the you mentioned somebody, he was part of my ugly category, and that is Bobby Miller. First of all, we are not the type of show, and I know there are other shows that cover the Dodgers that are already talking about trades. I am not going to do that. Okay. That to me is just clickbait stuff.
I am. No, I'm just kidding.
That's just stuff for the sake of talking. But I will say this about Bobby Miller. Those first 2 innings, man, was everybody excited? Was everybody telling me, oh, Bobby Miller figured it out? Oh, here, Bobby Miller is back. And then Bobby Miller remembered who he was, and he had a really bad inning. He got hit really, really hard. And what it looked like, and he talked about it afterwards, Bobby Miller is a guy that I think at least has 4 pitches, if not 5 pitches. But in that game, what became very clear, especially in that 3rd inning, was he could only get 2 of those pitches over the plate. And these are major league hitters. Even they are the Colorado Rockies, ladies and gentlemen. These are major league hitters. And if they can figure out you only can get 2 of those pitches over the plate, they're going to be looking for those pitches. And he looked like he was hitting. There were meatballs out there, and it was batting practice.
What do you say about the cars they drive?
They drive nice cars. Well, that's Dontrell. I want to give credit. That's Dontrell Willis. The other team drives nice cars too. But I just, for me, for the Bobby Miller thing is I don't know how many opportunities he's going to get to get right on the major league level. So every time
we gave Bueller opportunities, and if we have Snell out, and we still need to get reps. Like if we're still doing that 6-man rotation for Yoshi and Sasaki, you might be seeing a whole lot more of him trying to work it out in the majors versus in the minors.
Well, they could have done that today. They could have thrown Bobby Miller out there today. They decided to go with a bullpen game today. Now,
but they had already sent him down. Doesn't he have to be down for like 15 days?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They could have kept him up and not sent him down, knowing full well that next Wednesday they were going to need a spot starter. Now, we all saw how he pitched in Chicago last year, and Bobby Miller is from Chicago. So part of me wonders if the Dodgers didn't want to do that to him. They didn't want to put him in Chicago again. And if he had 2 back-to-back bad starts, what was that going to do to Bobby Miller's confidence? That to me is the ugly part right now, is, as we all know, hearing from players, the mental aspect of this game. And I would have to think, Amie, that confidence-wise, Bobby Miller is on shaky ground.
But wasn't that inning, though, and I'd have to go back, like I don't have it written down on my scorecard. He gave up a single, struck somebody out, another single, a walk before that grand slam. But I'm curious, in that interplay in that 3rd inning, was one of those plays, is that one of the ones where the ball got dropped or we didn't catch it or we booted it?
He was not helping his own cause because there were walks.
That was a Chicago game. I need to backtrack back into Colorado. Sorry about that.
This was he I'm telling you, he just could not get the ball over he had no control of his pitches. Right. So when he had to come in, he was throwing it right over the middle. So when he wasn't walking hitters, he was throwing it right down the middle, and he was getting hit hard because after the grand slam, they hit another home run off of him.
Moniak hit that solo homer, and then we pulled him at the end of that inning. I mean, he finished it out, but he was at 84 pitches already. Like,
Yeah.
that's
So
his season debut, though, and you don't know what kind of nerves were playing into that. Hopefully, he can settle himself down. If he's down there for at least 15 days, he gets to kind of figure it out, work out the kinks. They can watch a lot of tape on that. Maybe the next time we see him, he has a better handle on that.
yeah, but again, once again, if guys are going to start coming back and getting healthy, you got Kershaw, you got Gonsolin, you got guys that are ready to come back. You see, you got Robleski's down there. It's like, for me, it just, yeah, it becomes about performance, right? And if you are not performing, how many more opportunities are you going to be given? And again, this is why I feel like the mental aspect of it is, how much pressure is he putting on himself, knowing that my opportunities are limited to show these guys I belong at the major league level. I fixed the problems that I was dealing with. I thought a lot of his issues was last year. I don't think he was healthy, but
Mhm.
that start against the Rockies was not encouraging. But like you said, it was just only one start. Let's
I
see what he looks like the next time he gets an opportunity.
I love how we're talking about all this pressure he's putting on himself, and yet we have people who are already, like, kind of knocking him, and it's like, it's not just his pressure, guys, like, maybe just enjoy watching the game. I again, we all fan differently. I unless you have, like, money maybe riding on it, I don't understand, like, nitpicking it to death. I just
What other numbers do you have, Amy? What other numbers do you want to throw at me?
Let's see. So, man, that Rangers series, just pitchers duels
Yeah.
in that. Like that last game was just it was a nail biter in like who's going to score, and then once we did, it was like, are we going to be able to hold on to this? We saw Yoshinobu go 7 innings. Sasaki went 6, which is promising because they're both kind of stretching themselves out a little bit more. What was it? Dave Vassay had an interesting stat he posted on Saturday that he said that the Dodgers have only had their big three at the same time in the starting lineup, only 7 of their first 22 games as of Saturday. So, like, that's something to think about too when not just the offense, like the lineup construction, but also just playing in the field, they're still not really gelling all the way because they don't have that cohesiveness that they usually have at this point. So 7 teams, you've had Shohei, Freeman, and Mookie in the games all together. That's it. Like I mean, that's gonna have an impact.
Yeah, it's still very early, but yeah, I love that series in Texas. I mean, the pitching was just fantastic. Those are the kind of games that I really enjoy. And you mentioned Yamamoto and Sasaki. That's part. They're in my good category, Amy. They're the good because Yamamoto continues. Yamamoto's ERA is under 1. His ERA
Mhm.
is 0.93. What Yamamoto is doing, it's so impressive. I hope he can sustain it. I know I had high hopes thinking, okay, going into his second season, he's acclimated, he's figured things out. So far, he just, I mean, it's so great to go out and watch him pitch. He's just fantastic. And then
102 pitches. I read a stat that he wasn't even in the like they weren't allowing him to pitch over 100 until like midseason last year. So just the trust that they're showing in him to let him stay in, pitch, throw 102 pitches, and then call it a day.
he's definitely pitching like their ace. He is definitely pitching like their ace. And I think it's very encouraging for Sasaki. This is the longest he's gone. And again, what I've been stressing with him is consistency. So the previous start 5 innings, now this he goes 6 this start. I mean, he is trending in the right direction. Very encouraged, and kudos to the Dodgers pitching staff because
Oh,
whatever
you don't
they
hear
did.
that very often.
Exactly. Whatever they did with him after that start, his first home start at Dodger Stadium, and credit to Sasaki, he's either a quick learner or he knew what he was doing wrong and he was able to address it very, very quickly. So I'm very encouraged by Sasaki, and I can't wait to see what he does in his next outing.
And that was the game that Tommy Edman was in for Shohei as the leadoff hitter, and he hit that leadoff home run on the second pitch. It was just like, oh, Tommy tanks.
He's another one in my good category, Amy. Like, okay, so Tommy Edman, at the time we are recording this, is tied for the league lead in home runs in the National League. Now, I get this sent to me all the time that this is probably the most lopsided trade in the history of Major League Baseball. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, ladies and gentlemen. I know you guys love sending me that, but in that trade that happened last year, that trade that we all went kind of like, whatever. Because when the Dodgers got Tommy Edman last year, he hadn't even played a game all season.
He was
They got
injured
Michael
still.
Kopech. But the way Tommy Edman is playing right now, I don't feel sorry for the St. Louis Cardinals fans because those people, the Cardinals have tortured me my whole Major League Baseball life. Okay.
What
They
did
are
they
not
do to you? How did they
the
hurt you?
1985 NLCS. I know you've heard the story before.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Point to the spot on the doll.
Shout out to my compadre who went to St. Louis and sent me a picture of the Jack Clark bat that he used to hit a home run in Game 6 of the NLCS. Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate you looking out for me.
But as of yesterday, I think when I was looking at my stats, Edman had 8 home runs, whereas Judge has 7. So,
I meant the National League, tied for the league.
no, I know. I'm going up against Judge.
Wow.
I was just.
Are you going on that limb? Are you saying Edman?
No, to be fair, Judge also has more RBIs, but I was just happy about the home run stat. I was like, good for you, Tommy Edman.
Yeah, as they call
Whereas,
him, Tommy,
however long you can hold on to it.
as they're all calling him Tommy Tanks, well, if I mean, Cardinal fan is probably going through it right now going, are you kidding me? Of course, Tommy Edman turns into a stud playing for the Dodgers. But here, when he played for the Cardinals, we kept waiting for this potential to come and it never, and look at him now. He is just, I mean, he is off to a great start. I know I was in, are you familiar with this? I think it's called Lucy's Cakes or
Over by me?
it's not over by you.
Oh,
It's
it's
in
like, were you
Costa.
in my hood again?
No, it's over in Costa Mesa. It's so Lucy's Cake. So this is, I don't know if this happens to you, Amy, but so we were at this bakery. My wife is ordering a cake for her niece's baby shower, right? And I'm wearing my Dodger hat. And then there's another guy waiting for his order, and he's wearing a Dodger hat too. I don't know if
You
this
guys make
happens to
out?
you. No, we did not make out. I
Oh,
know that was the fantasy that you were hoping for, and that
yeah.
you wanted me to describe this to you.
I just didn't know where the story was going. So,
But if you see someone else wearing a Dodger hat, you are more likely to talk to that person.
I actually not always because so on my side, being up in Northern California for a while, if you saw somebody with a Dodger hat up there, absolutely. You said go Dodgers. You knew they were a fan because nobody's going to wear a hat up there just to wear it. When I moved down here and I'd be like, oh, hey, go Dodgers. I found out a lot of people were wearing it for style and had no idea about the game. So I just stopped asking. So my experience is a little different. If they say something, sure, but I'm not going to just assume.
So this was Saturday. So it was after that Friday night game against Texas. And he walks up to me, doesn't say hi or anything. He just walks up to me and goes, you watched that game last night? And so then we started talking about the game. And what did he say to me? He was just like, Tommy Edman, man. Tommy, like this guy had become a Tommy Edman super fan. And that's pretty much how it is. Anytime I talk to a Dodger fan, it's Tommy Edman, Tommy Edman, Tommy Edman. So I think Tommy Edman is off to a great start. I hope he can keep it up for the whole season because he just brings so much to this team, being able to play multiple positions. And if he's going to hit for power, I don't know if anybody had that on their bingo card.
I did. No, I'm just kidding. Were you as puzzled as I was that they brought up Eddie Rosario? Do we still have David Bodie in the minors?
I was wondering.
I was like, why didn't we bring up Bodie? He had the good spring.
I think the reason why they didn't bring up Bodie is exactly what happened to Eddie Rosario after the game.
That he got DFA'd?
They got DFA'd. I don't think they would have brought Bodie up. Because clearly it's a numbers game with the Dodgers, especially that 40-man roster.
Yeah.
So I think they knew. And look, I think it's the best thing for Rosario anyways. If he's not going to get an opportunity to play with this organization, and maybe he has an opportunity to play with some other let him go. Let him go and
Yeah.
pursue it.
It
But
makes sense, but I was just like, oh, we could have given Bodie a shot.
because I mean, honestly, Amy, I don't know where there is a place for Rosario. I don't know if I trust him in the outfield. And
Mhm.
I don't think, as much as everybody on here still wants to hate on Andy Pacas is showing signs of life with his bat. And
Mhm.
I know you mentioned, I know a lot of people were already jumping on the ball he booted out there, but it
He
didn't hurt
wasn't the
them.
only one, though. That's the thing. I wasn't saying it to single him out because some of the other players in the outfield were struggling a little bit yesterday in that game with the Cubs.
But he wasn't, I mean, but that didn't come back to haunt him because he threw out the runner at the plate in that same
Mhm.
inning,
Mhm.
on a ball that he bobbled. Because if he doesn't bobble that ball, I don't think
They
it's
might have
close.
just stayed at third. Who knows? And then who knows what happened at the next at bat.
I don't think it would have been even that close because if he doesn't bobble it, I think they clearly get him out. The Rosario thing, I think it's just a numbers game. I think that's the reason why they did it. But do we know for sure that Bodie is still in the
So
Dodger system?
I'm not sure. And honestly, I didn't do a deep enough dive when I was working on my notes at midnight last night. But that's dedication. That's our dedication to the show.
For you diehards out there that are watching the show, or if you know if Bodie is still in the Dodger system, please, inquiring minds want to know. Let us know. Leave us comments. Let us know the whereabouts of David Bodie, because they may be holding on to him, Amy, in case maybe there is another. And it looks like a quick search. It looks like he is still in the Dodgers minor
Mhm.
league system.
I honestly, I was just looking at Statcast. I didn't jump into the minor league app because that involved me clicking around a bunch of stuff, and I didn't want my ADHD to just like, oh, what else? So,
But if you guys know differently, if he is not, then please let us know. But I have not seen anything that shows that the Dodgers have DFA David Bodie. I'm also curious as to, was it a wait? Okay,
hmm,
all right. So here's a quick update on David Bodie. So
I
there
know I'm
was
trying to
an
find a roster, but gosh, this app is not great.
It looked like he cleared waivers, and he's down in Oklahoma City. So this was about less than a month ago from Fabian Ardaya. So Bodie's still in the system.
No,
So
he's
maybe,
there. I just got it. I just finally found where the roster was on the MILB app. He's rostered in the infield with with Oklahoma City.
all right. What other numbers do you have for us?
Let's see. Evan Phillips came back, so made his season debut on Saturday, and we did see him, like I mentioned, in back-to-back games. So I think he did like 2/3 of an inning both times. So
And he
I
looked
mean,
good. He
good
got a
good to
big
have him back.
strikeout.
He
Got a,
looked different than he did at the end of last season.
he got a big strikeout of Garcia in that Texas series. So
Hmm. Yeah, there was. I'm just trying to see. I mean, Higashioka really put it to us in that Saturday game. I think at one point there was a stat like Higashioka is 2 for 2 against the Dodgers, and then they were like, and the rest of the team, and I was like, dang, shade, guys.
hey, I
But
mean, it was just it was a good game. It was just poor Kirby Yates just didn't have it that day.
well, and then we won that last game, which was kind of controversial on that caught stealing by Wyatt Langford, where depending on the angle you saw it, you weren't quite sure if Miguel Rojas had got him when he came off the bag at second base. But they did that replay at the end of the game, and if you looked at social media, all the people were like, "Of course, the umps ruled for the Dodgers," but that call could have gone either way.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Amy. I thought he was safe, but I have to tell you, I really hate that we are using replay for that kind of stuff.
Are you?
I it drives me crazy that we are slowing down the camera and it literally comes down.
And they're like, eh, 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 eh.
And a lot of people say this. It's against the spirit of the rule. I have no
I
problem.
did see a lot of that too.
It's like we're splitting the atom here. It's like I understand using it for like egregious calls, fair or foul or stuff like that. But if someone has already stolen the base and they pop up, I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? So that to me, but honestly, from all the angles, I thought they were going to call him safe. So I was surprised that they called him out. What a way to end the game too on a review.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't feel good to win that way for sure. I was looking into some of the like batting averages as we're like looking at the kind of just the offense overall through this series, especially as, as tight as some of those games were in Texas. I did see an article about Max Muncy because I've been seeing grumblings around that, he hasn't been hitting, he hasn't been walking the way that we're used to seeing that. And so he has isolated, like he did change his stance. He's realized that he needs to keep his hips back more. He said he developed some bad habits and that made it so that he wasn't seeing the ball well. The quote was about him holding his backside makes him really good, but it's not easy to do. And he said, I just went the wrong way. That's just baseball. That's just life. Sometimes you try to do something and it completely backfires on you. That's sort of what happened. And to me, just reading that, it's just a reminder of like, these guys try so hard. The ability to hit is not easy. And you try to do something that you think is going to help you. And then you end up developing this bad habit. And it totally turns your just how you approach the plate on its head. And now he's got to go back and figure out, okay, how do I get back to good? And just like how much work these guys put into this just to hit the ball.
Yes. So Muncie was brought up to me by a listener who sent me a message on Instagram. He goes by I Am Him. So I Am Him was sending, when are you going to talk about Max Muncy? And I'm like, look, you can see Max Muncy hit a couple of balls that he thought maybe he hit better and that they were going to go out as home runs. And you could see I think he's getting frustrated. Max Muncy is hitting.
Talk to Chris Taylor about that. He knows all about it.
Max Muncy's hitting under 200. He's hitting 181. He's got 4 RBIs. I don't think that's the kind of production that the Dodgers were expecting from him. I know a lot of people are, but again, for me, Amy, I say this, and I'm answering your question. I Am Him. As I told you, listen to the show, and I'll have an answer to you. I am not going to start calling people out until June.
Why are you going to call people out in general? What are you calling them out for?
Well, because I feel like there are major leaguers that are notorious or have had slow starts to seasons, and all of a sudden things change. And
are they going to hear you?
They are. They're going to hear me. They listen. They watch this show, Amy, because all of a sudden we talk about something, and the next thing we know, it's being addressed. That's all I'm saying. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
But look, guys, again, I cannot stress this enough. We're not even through April yet, okay? We can all agree on this. The Dodgers are not playing the best baseball. That being said, at the time we are recording this, they have the second best record.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me what was happening in the game. I was like, not yet.
No.
I'm going to watch it after this.
But they have the second best record in Major League Baseball, and we all can say they're not playing well. So what do you think is going to happen once they actually start playing well? So here's another way I Am Him. If it's going to make you feel any better, this falls under my bad category, and that is Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is a very streaky player. Okay, Mookie Betts is going through it right now. Mookie is
Mookie's trying to put on weight.
Mookie's 4 for his last 33. Okay, he is struggling. Now, we've all seen it before, and this is why I'm giving Muncy time. We've all seen it before where all of a sudden Mookie does not look good, and then we'll go on a 2-3 week tear where Mookie is carrying the team on his back. This is what happens in Major League Baseball. So I'm going to reserve yes, Muncy has not looked good, but it is still early. It happens with a lot of major league players. They start off slow, and then all of a sudden, by the end of the year, they put up the same numbers they've always put up on their baseball card. So I am him. No pasa nada. Cálmate, cálmate. So I'm
And let's all remember for when the bashing of Will Smith starts at the end of the year, he usually ends up carrying the team in the beginning, and right now he has the highest batting average of
well,
anybody
yeah,
on the
and
team.
that's what I was going
And
to
that's
say.
and that's consistent every year. Usually every year he is the one who starts out super strong, and he's a catcher. He gets tired.
He's part of my good, Amie. I mean, he offensively, and he continues to be very successful in throwing runners out. Like that is we saw that last year. He was really good with holding runners and throwing runners on attempt steals, and it looks like he's continuing that into that this season. So Will Smith. Now the story on Will Smith is always the same thing, right? And that is, as the season progresses, we don't know if it's the physical toll that ends up slowing him down, but his numbers do come back down to earth. He had a similar start last year offensively, where he was hitting for a really high average, and then all of a sudden everything.
He's done it the last couple of years, but also where like in the past we had catchers that spelled each other a little bit more. Like I feel like when we had Austin Barnes and Yasmani Grandal, I felt like they were a little bit more evenly matched when they were up there, where or if they split the games, maybe not 50-50, it wasn't like one of them carrying the whole load. It feels like Will Smith gets the majority of the starts, and that's going to wear on you when you don't have somebody spelling you that often, where and maybe that is the case. Like the expectation is he's gonna play them all. That's great, but you are gonna have some wear after something like that versus maybe a team that does swap out a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got any more numbers for me?
um Not really. I think most of my numbers have petered out. What do you have?
Well, Lobotomy reached out to. I'm telling you, I some of these names on the Instagram, but Lobotomy reached out to me saying, "Are you going to talk about Michael Conforto again,
Oh, I
guys?"
do have one more thing after this, but yes, go for Conforto.
It's like, look, I know,
I like that
I
they
said
reach out to you, because if they reached out to me, I'd be like, "Huh?
Oh yeah,
Why are we worried?"
look, I feel, and I don't know, you may be different. I feel you are the person they like on the show, and I'm the one that they have issues with.
I feel like
Uh,
that is mistake. I feel like they love you.
it's
So
because I got a
you
new
just want me
nickname.
to say it out loud. They love you.
I got a new nickname. I'm no longer the Prince of Darkness. There was someone who messaged me. I am now the Prince of Wokeness. So I was like, tip of the hat to you, sir. But
I mean, I wouldn't disagree.
or
I
maybe I think the issue is when it comes to being critical, that's when they come to me. And so
or you guys just enjoy the game differently than I do. It's that, and that's okay. If
so
that's how you guys like having this back and forth on it, that's just not how me and my friends watch baseball.
Lobotomy wants to talk about Michael Conforto and the fact that Michael Conforto is hitting 191. And I know I said at the beginning of the season, I thought to have a big season. Hitting in that lineup, I just thought he was gonna take advantage of being surrounded by all these guys.
In the
Look,
like 20 some odd games we've had.
yeah, again, I think
Okay, just checking.
the sample size is still very, very small on Conforto. So to you, Lobotomy, I say let's table this conversation on Conforto and let's look back in a month and see what he's doing. Because again, I think the first 2 months of the season are to identify holes that you have, weaknesses on your team. I think right now is too small of a sample size to determine that. But by June, you should know. And then you're going to spend June and July figuring out what are your solutions. So right now, I am not, it's too early for me to say that Michael Conforto is a problem, but let's keep an eye on it. It could also just be that the bottom of the lineup is not producing, and it's really hard if no one around you is hitting for you to get good pitches to hit. So
And he is hitting 191 right now. The last 3-ish years, he didn't play in 2022, but he was hitting 237 last year, 239 the year before that, off in 22, 232 in 2021. So while yes, 191 is not 237, it's not far off. If he has a slow start, he's going to catch up to that. Now, granted, in 2020, shortened season, he did hit 322, but he's been about 250-ish before that with, 2 seasons when he first started at 279, 270. So, there is definitely room to grow, but he's also new team, new environment. He's a professional. Hopefully, he will be able to adjust.
new year, new me, right?
Sure.
Uh, so before we go on to our next topic, I do just want to add one last thing about my good category. I want to give a shout out. I want to give flores to this guy because I don't think we're talking enough about him and the start.
I hope we're giving it to him and maybe one other person if we're thinking about the same people.
All right, you can if it's not the one you're thinking of, you go ahead after. But I want to give my flores to a rookie pitcher, Jack
Mm.
Dreyer. Jack
Oh,
Dreyer.
he was one of mine. So, okay.
Jack Dreyer is having a hell of a start to this season. He's got an ERA under 1. He's got a .66 ERA. I know it's only 13 innings, but this guy I think is really adding a lot to the team because he's a third lefty in that bullpen. So the Dodgers now can end up using Banda or Vesia in other high leverage situations and not have to worry about, well, we've used all our lefties in the bullpen because they still have Jack Dreyer. And this kid has just looked really good. I understand that he's a rookie. So there is going to be a point when he comes, once there's more tape on him, there is going to be a point this year where the league makes the adjustment and he may come back to reality. But for right now, my flores go to Jack Dreyer and the start to his season. Amie, who are you giving flores to?
So I had Jack Dreyer, but also Ben Kasparius, because as I was listening to one of the broadcasts, they were talking about the bullpen matchups and how the Dodgers have been handling that. And they were talking about setup men and the more of traditional way that we typically see a bullpen used versus the long man. And Kasparius, Dreyer, both coming into some of these games. Now we know Kasparius had that one rough outing, but he's been pretty solid for the most part as well this season. So just knowing that when they need to turn to these guys, whether it's like, hey, we're just going to need you to eat some innings in whatever this game is, or hey, it's a high leverage situation. And for Ben Kasparius, it's his second year pitching in the majors, and then you've got Jack Dreyer. Like, they've just been doing a phenomenal job. So good, kudos to them.
So that was my good, the bad, and the ugly
Okay.
of this recap. There you go. Shout out to Ennio Morricone, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you hear the stat from old Dodger friend Chris Martin that he had only walked 47 players in his career, and then Shohei came up and he walked him?
Of course, the unicorn is the answer to that question, right?
It was like, and 48.
Exactly. Let's move on to our next topic. Amie, a certain someone got their World Series ring, right?
Yeah, one of our former dogs, which I think I texted you. Can we just bring him back already? So Brent Honeywell visited the Dodgers during that Rangers.
Right, I know it's a hypothetical, rhetorical question, but if you did bring back Honeywell, who would you get rid of?
I'd have to see a list in front of me right now because my brain is a little tired and I cannot think of all the bullpen pitchers off the top of my head.
I know that he's a folk hero and we love the character that he is and how he goes out there and Kenny Powers cosplay and plays Major League Baseball. But honestly, there isn't anybody right now that is in the Dodgers. Maybe Garcia. Would you get rid of Garcia to bring in Honeywell?
I would.
Okay. But go ahead. Yeah, you're
only because I've heard the whisperings that the Dodgers are planning to just kind of, and not from the Dodgers, just this is what I've been hearing around that, like, Luis Garcia may be, eventually getting DFA'd and they're eating the innings that they can, which is unfortunate, but I hope he takes what he learns here, and whether he stays or goes, I might, just because Honeywell was such a pivotal part of the team. But so when he visited the clubhouse before one of the games, Vesia presented him with his ring because they were former catch partners. Freddie gave a speech. He talked about Game 5 and Honeywell's selfless act, and Honeywell then gave a speech, put on his gold numbered jersey, and
I love gold.
of everything gold. But he choked up. He said he couldn't have done it without his guys. It's something that he's wanted his whole life. He loves the sport, loves the game, the people that you meet along the way. And it takes one special team every year, and that he basically just loved all of them, and he had to come and see them all. And so he got his ring, he got his gold jersey, and then they took like a team photo, and it was just like, oh, I miss Honeywell. He's the one where you had those seats in the playoffs on the field level over by the foul pole line, and we saw him playing catch with just kids in the stands, and just, oh God, he was such a good guy.
But you mentioned it. If he was on this team right now, he would be a candidate to get DFA'd once everyone is healthy in this bullpen. And look, you have guys like Kasperius and unfortunately Jack Dreyer, who's pitching so great, are probably candidates to get sent back down to the minors once guys like Brewstar are healthy, Kopech is healthy, Blake Trinan is healthy. Like
Mhm.
this Dodger bullpen is loaded.
We DFA'd, I think we DFA'd Ryan Brazier because we didn't have enough room, and like
So,
who does that?
like I said, he's our favorite, Kenny Powers cosplayer, but in the end, there's just no room for him.
Yeah. It's
All right,
a
next
bummer.
story. So the unicorn missed the game, and I love this is what cracks me up.
Two games. He missed two.
So everybody started hitting me up, right? Oh, why is Eddie Rosario in Texas? Why is he there? Like everybody's freaking out and asking me, everybody's sending me messages like I know what's going on here. Now, I don't know if maybe you had figured it out because you're a master at Clue, but
Oh, I was just living my life, and then I
it
saw
did
the
not
message, and I
cross
was
my
like,
mind. It did not cross my mind of the following, Amy, but can you give us that update?
so he was placed on the paternity list, which for players it's typically about 3 days. As we know, the unicorn, he only took 2. So Eddie Rosario got called up on Friday the 18th, and then we also did a corresponding move to we transferred right-handed reliever. Well, I put it on here and I didn't put his name.
Does it matter? Does it matter?
No,
Let's
it
skip
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We transferred a reliever to make room on the 40 man. And essentially he was out Friday. Saturday we saw the announcement on Instagram that they'd had a daughter, and you saw the little picture of Decoy in the corner and his daughter's feet, and then there was another subsequent picture of his daughter's feet, and the little announcement that they made basically just saying he's grateful to his loving wife who gave birth to our healthy, beautiful daughter. To my daughter, thank you for making us very nervous yet super anxious parents. I'd like to thank the Dodgers organization, my teammates, and the fans for their constant support and kind words of encouragement. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all the medical professionals and everyone who dedicated their support to us up until this wonderful day, which to me just made me think of him at the plate where he's always like, hand out like, oh, are you okay? Oh, like just how polite he is. And I was like, of course he thanked everyone.
Congratulations to him. I know already the jokes were coming with dad. He's going to have dad strength now. And it's
He's
like,
a girl dad.
can you imagine what he's going to do at the plate now with dad strength? I will do. I understand that he is a public figure and it is news, but it is fascinating to me. And for those of you listening or watching, here's a Prince of Wokeness alert over here. It's fascinating to me that we are more willing to talk about Shohei Ohtani giving birth and
Whoa,
having
his
a child.
wife technically gave
Well,
birth.
having a child, that is open for everyone to discuss and get that information. But other issues that are going on in that could be facing Major League Baseball, we don't talk about those issues. So I'll leave it at that. I do. I don't know, Amy. It does feel like there are certain things where it's like I don't know if I like this feels so private. Like I get
It
it.
does feel I was conflicted, like, do I even post this? But then I was like, well, it's media. Like, not that, I'm
No,
responsible for getting
it
the
is.
message out. I didn't break it, but it was also like I share other things. I will share this, but I still had a pause of like, oh, this is family stuff. Like, I hope people will still give him the privacy that he deserves. That child is going to have so many different situations thrust on it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Do you want to move on to the next topic, or is there anything else that you want to add about Otani being a girl dad?
No, that's good for him. I'm glad she was healthy. I'm glad they all came through it safely because that's really at the end of the day all you can ask for. I mean, you can ask for more, but really.
So,
um
so let's go around Major League Baseball, and there's this story came up that I thought was really interesting, and
I sent you the thing on it cuz it kind of goes in the hand of what we deal with over here.
exactly, and I did not have on my bingo card that we were going to talk about the Piratas of Pittsburgh this much this season, and now they are coming to Dodger Stadium, so we're probably going to talk about them even more.
And
But
Paul Skenes is on my fantasy team, so.
there we go. Do you want to tell us what happened with Mr. Paul Skenes?
Yeah, so Saturday they were having his rookie of the year bobblehead night and I don't know if you saw the images, but the line was across the bridge into downtown Pittsburgh. And so for them it was the first 20,000 people were going to get a bobblehead, and then because of the line, like you saw some of the Instagram footage of like just somebody walking the line from start to finish and just taking video of the whole thing. But the Pirates released a statement saying, "We don't want any fan who attended today's game to not receive a bobblehead. Any fan who scanned into today's game after the first 20,000 will be sent an electronic voucher. Distribution details will be finalized and announced soon," which I thought was kind of cool. But then you had some of, like, if you start to skim the comments, you got stuff kind of like what we hear at Dodger Stadium, where it's like, this isn't a PR win. Like, why didn't you just offer that to everybody anyway, because this was going to be such a big deal versus the people who couldn't make it or the people who couldn't get off work or got there late. And it's like, okay, well, the people who got there late will get a voucher. But for some of those people, it's like, well, we wouldn't have had to have this crazy line if you had just let us know earlier. And I think that's some of the sentiment that we hear around Dodger Stadium, especially because the Dodgers do pack their stadium so much, where it's like, it is free advertising for your sponsors. Why not just give one to everybody? You take down the congestion, this make it a little bit safer for everybody to safely get to the stadium versus this mad dash to get the first 40,000 in the case of the Dodgers, or in the case of the Pirates, the first 20,000.
I think that's fair. I think that is a fair criticism, but I also want to give credit to the
Mhm.
Piratas because they could have very easily just said, "No, it's 20,000 and that's that."
Mhm, and there were
I
people
again,
actually arguing for that. They were like, "No, just make it the 20,000. This voucher thing, like, don't throw it in our face." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, if you're gonna offer me a voucher for a bobblehead and I paid, like, why
yeah.
not?"
And that's why I do, like I said, I think your point is fair, but at the same time, I didn't think that I was going to have on my bingo card that the Piratas were going to be this accountable because they're still not accountable on other things.
Oh, people
But
called that out too. They were like, "You keep your 20,000 bobbleheads and put that on the field."
yeah, so I mean they're accountable in certain things. So I guess if you're a Piratas fan, you got to take your wins wherever you can, like dealing with this bobblehead, but also with the Roberto Clemente story from
Mhm.
earlier in the year.
Well, and who knows?
Uh,
Maybe they didn't know everybody. Well, but you would kinda know if it was a sold out game or not, I guess, before
Well,
the
I
night.
think part of me is also you're the Piratas, right? How
That
often? I mean, if you haven't seen this video, look it up, ladies and gentlemen. It is crazy the number of people that are lined around the stadium to get in. I know it's probably similar. We're so used to it. Like anytime the Dodgers have a bobblehead, you have people showing up earlier in the day just surrounding the ravine. But I like I said, there is truth. I think the criticism is fair, but
I
at the
think
same
many
time,
things can be true at once.
exactly, exactly. Um, so that's going to do it for this episode. So before we wrap things up, I know Amy, you want to give a quick shout out to a little something, right?
The Baseball Reliquary, which I just found out about. So for the listeners who already knew about it, you don't have to shout while you're listening. Juan already said he knows a handful of you that are already, you guys have been members or been following it. I just found out about it on the Midnight Library of Baseball podcast. And I think it's the coolest thing ever. So for you guys who already knew about it, 50 points to each of you. It's for anybody who doesn't know, it is a nonprofit organization. It is sometimes called the antithesis to Cooperstown because they tend to prioritize stories versus the actual authentication of items. And they recognize players and people for their contributions and their character versus just looking solely on stats. So it's something that was started in 1996 in Monrovia, California. A lot of the items are now housed at Whittier College, at least since 2015. And it was started by a gentleman named Terry Cannon in, like I said, 1996. But I was intrigued by some of the projects that he initially started. So he was looking at things from like a lens of racism and sexism. So he had exhibits on a game of color, the African American experience in baseball. He also did one on Equal to the Game, women in baseball, and then also something that's a little close to mine and your heart, Mexican American baseball in LA, from the barrios to the big leagues, and that also spawned the Latino Baseball Project. So just really cool stuff. They also do voting every year. Because I just joined, their voting ends at the end of this month, but they do a thing called the Shrine of the Eternals. So they sent a whole you probably won't see it with the green screen, but like a whole ballot with like write-ups for all of the people. You get to vote and put them in order. They even send you a self-addressed stamp. So just shout out to the Baseball Reliquary. It's just another thing to nerd out on if you love your team, but you also love baseball. I know I'm a part of SABR. I'm a part of the International Women's Baseball Center. This is just another thing to add to my cadre of nerddom. But it was just, I don't know. The more I learn about it, the cooler it seems.
Absolutely. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. There's some great stories that come out of it. And
you have friends who are
Yeah.
followers / members.
Exactly. So if you are into that kind of stuff, definitely go ahead and check them out. But that's going to do it for this episode. Amie, any last words?
Join the Reliquary and vote, or just go check it out. You don't have to join.
So again, this is a reminder, if you've been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, leave us comments, hit that notification button. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.